I've got 4 monitors completely rigged right now, so I can't even access. I couldn't even access what I need to access, and I just realized that. So, but thank you for taking the time to do this one again after the cluster of a Primus ringtone. So, again, this is Sean Carlin. I know Sean originally. I know him from when he was in Dink. Knowing is that's when I learned about him and heard his music. Reached out one day just to say, you know what, it's worth a shot. I'll see if he wants to be do an interview. And I told CEO to get a hold of him, and sure enough, here we are. And we've actually become chatting quite a bit and pretty good buds and chat regularly. So again,
So,
Sean Carlin, I'm glad to have you back. For those of you who don't know, this man has tons of stories and tons of knowledge in music, and I enjoy just sitting and just put it bluntly shooting shit with him because he knows so much stuff and just has some cool stories. So Sean, thank you again, thank you so
absolutely, sir.
much.
Good
So,
day.
oh, well, here's my wife under the edit stream. There we go. Like I said, I can't access all the screens. So that was not me.
That was yeah,
Okay. Make sure it's not a Primus song this time.
right, right.
One thing I want to know: how did the Temple of Tomorrow show go? With Death on a Stick and Nine Inch Nails.
I
How
have to
did that
say,
go?
it went fantastic, and we played at this place in Akron, Ohio called the Rialto Theater, which absolutely great venue. And I played with two great friends of mine, Christopher Butler, who was the waitresses,
Mm-hmm.
Christmas Rap, and I Know What Boys Like. He had his band called Two Pin Hot, and then Marky Ray, who was the tour manager for Nine Inch Nails, Butthole Surfers. I mean, Ministry. I mean, the guy's history is unbelievable. His band Death on a Stick played. So it was a bunch of friends, and it was really cool. It was That's the first time I played actually out in a long time, and I played the drummer from Dink, Jan Eddie Vandekool, played drums with us, and a couple my great friend Billy Paycheck Jr. played guitar. Mary Plaza, who I played with for years, other guitar player, and I played the freaking bass.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what. Yeah, you said they were pretty shocked when you walked in because here you came with a bass, not
They were
synthesizers and
they
samplers and
thought
stuff.
they thought it was this festival. They deemed it a festival and it was this outside music thing. Blah blah blah.
Hmm.
So they thought we were going to bring this whole like modular electronic thing. We showed up and we played lo-fi Americana, surf twang, good, bad, and ugly kind of stuff. It was awesome.
That's cool. I mean, I'm into like I love watching your Instagram sounds. I'm into very unique stuff and seeing the stuff you do on that setup, man. It looks like a spaceship in your
Yeah,
house.
that's mostly the stuff I put up. Usually, like the modular stuff or some other stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm working on a project right now with a guy that plays the oud, the Egyptian instrument.
Hmm.
So we're going to do this like drone modular thing, and he's going to twang over it. I can't wait for that. That's going to happen soon.
That does sound like a very cool, exciting project right there. I follow. I like a lot of the ethnic instruments. Part of just
Yeah,
being a
he
flamenco
also
player.
plays he also plays the sitar and the sitar, and
Oh.
we're also friends. In college, I did ethnomusicology beyond the harpsichord and piano thing.
Hmm.
Still friends with a couple of the people in ethnomusicology. The one guy is a Kyoto player and shamisen and stuff like that. He wants to come up. A master tabla player, Indian drum player, friend of mine. We got to get him in there too. So I mean, there's many different influences in my world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean that's what amazes me. We start talking. I like ethnic instruments and ethnic sounds from being flamenco and how it's a mix of Middle
yeah,
Eastern and Asian and Spanish and everything. and you know these people playing the sitar and everything else. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know many people who could say, yeah, I know a bunch of people who play different ethnic
Yeah.
instruments, let alone
Well,
well.
let me tell you, man, Kent, Ohio is a weird place. That's all I'm going to say.
You
There's
guys have some.
Kent,
It's
Ohio is
mind
a weird
blowing
place. Yes.
because, like, brain fart. Mr. Corell. I mean, just whole first name just went brain blank.
You know, I got to tell you,
Kevin
Kent,
Corell. There we go. There we go. It
Coral.
was.
Freak yeah, man. I mean,
I was
as I
like,
always say, as I always like to say, he's big in France.
well, that was like it was like the last name just disappeared, and I haven't even been smoking, so it's not that. It's just brain fart. But yeah, he was commenting on stuff, and I know you were gonna put us in touch, and I figured I was like, what the hell? I'll reach out to him, you know.
Yeah, no,
So
Kevin's
me
awesome.
and him been
One,
talking.
one of my great friends, Kevin. I mean, Future Children's awesome. I still have the 7-inch of Witch Hazel, which is his original band, and
He
you know,
did a lot under that, a lot of different
yeah,
like sounds and styles and textures
he,
and
he, he
everything.
just he just had something come out in England on some compilation. The guy is incredible. He's one of my great brothers. So
That's awesome. You do have a cool group of friends, just the people you know, and you tell me, oh yeah, this
like
person was over. It was like, you
like I
know,
say, Kent, Ohio's a weird place.
well, the amazing thing to me is how humble you are about it. You're not like, yeah, I know this. You're like, oh yeah, this guy was over. We were just hanging out, playing on the synthesizers, and it's like, I would be like, oh my god, do you know who was at my house? I mean, so,
No, we're just it's a good. I have a good group of friends. It's really cool.
I mean, seriously, it is such a unique music atmosphere up there. Because I mean, just seeing
Here-
all the more and more since we started talking, just seeing the more and more musicians both talking to you and just starting to do research. Kent, Ohio, and right in there has a
This
ton of musicians from
uh,
all forms.
all walks of life, from metal to jazz to whatever. Kent, Ohio is the place. And Kent, Ohio with Dink, I'll always be grateful. I'll always say I'm lucky
Hmm.
because we're in the right time at the right place in the mid '90s with Kent, Ohio. It was a vibrant college town that had some bars that people came out and saw music. And, I mean, there was a place called JB's Down. I mean, my God, there'd be a line around the block to see us play. Um, it ain't like that anymore. I mean, that kind of industry thing is over. But in that time, I am so grateful, to been part of that time where people cared about music and they came out, college kids and whatever. Um, and they basically propelled us into what happened. So I mean, yeah, Kent, Ohio in a day was one of the coolest places in the world. As we always say, the land of love. That's what we always say.
Now, does it still have a big music atmosphere up there, or
No,
has that
no,
no?
no. Like every place else in the world, by the late '90s, and this is what happened with Dink. Internet had come around and Napster and stuff like that. In our second record, we'd gone to Woodstock. Jared and I had gone to London.
Hmm.
Like cha-ching, man. We're 1.5 million into it. Um, Boy bands and stuff like that starting in '98, '99. We get back and we got dropped. I mean, but all I can say about that, I am the 1% of bands. We got signed to a major label, and I will always be grateful and thankful for this. We rode the big machine till the end.
Hmm.
So we got a freaking advance, man, and from Capitol, and then we got a freaking advance for publishing. I'm still published through Universal.
Hmm.
That gave you the amount of money for years. Not to have to work. I mean, your job is music, and
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to freaking do. All right, so our thing, we'd go out on tour. Okay, first off, you're dealing with a European and 4 hillbillies from Kent. Okay, All right, so we don't know nothing, you know. We went for a long time without management. We managed ourselves, and we called ourselves FYINS Entertainment Conglomeration. Fuck you, I'm not sorry, Entertainment Conglomeration. Still to this day, man, FYINS to everybody. And then the Dutch, when we got him, he was looking for weed. When we ran into him, the first night he was in town in Kent, and we became friends with him, and he could not speak English at the time. So his words were like, instead of shut the fuck off, it's shut the fuck up, it was shut the fuck off. Love it or take it. I mean, his grasp of the English language was a beautiful thing. To this day, we still say that stuff. You know, shut the fuck off, dude. To this day. And we didn't even know he was a drummer when he got to town. And we were doing our first couple sessions. I believe it was just me, Jer, and Rob at this recording studio called Electrosound. And Ed came down the next day because we got him some weed or something like that. I mean, we were in a bar, and his girlfriend could speak English. He couldn't. And she came up to us and said something like, to Rob, something like, you look like you might be able to get us some marijuana. That's where it started.
You know, and back then, that's the thing. Back then, it was kind of a taboo thing. Now it's like,
see, this is the craziest thing. So he had left Holland and was driving across the United States with like $100,000 in traveler's checks in his thing. He'd gotten out of this like relationship and they paid him off or something like that. And you know, but he had played, there was a band in Kennel Howe called the Numbers Band, 15, 60, 75, that used to go to Holland every year and do a small tour. And he got hired over there to play the drums. And the Numbers Band almost got signed like several times. They're kind of a blues jazz kind of band, known as the Kent Band. And so he came to Kent to see the Numbers Band because they were playing at this place called JB's. And I was working at a music store at the time, and the two brothers that ran Numbers Band came in to me, and they knew I started talking to the Dutch guy and learned he was a drummer. They took me to the back room of the shop, and they were like, don't do it, dude. About the Dutch, don't play with him. I've been with him for 35 years now, or 25 years now.
So
yeah, we got a special relationship. Like I like to say that.
And that is cool. So he has developed better English over the years.
So you know,
yeah,
there was a period he quit playing drums, and this is probably 6 or 7 years ago. And now he's got a really nice little modular system.
Nice.
And he's doing the modular thing, and I have to give it to him. I'll give him to that. Cheers.
And that's the thing. I have. It seems like drummers take it the hardest when they stop playing. I have a couple friends who are drummers. One of them, he was the first band I was ever in, and he quit playing the drums, man. And he had to find something to fill his time. He didn't have the drums anymore, so he was struggling. And now he coaches like 8 different kids sports teams and does all kinds of stuff. But he's like, man, you're just empty if you're a drummer and you just have to stop playing. And he's like, you're just empty. You know, he's like, there's lacking.
It's a cool period right now because it didn't really like. I mean, I didn't speak to Ed for 9 years, or Finn, the bass player. In about 2010 or 11, we started speaking again. Ed had gone back to Holland, and he came back about 10 years ago. And I mean, we've developed a relationship again with a bunch of more people. Like, you know, our little studio at my place, I mean, I have a bunch of people come over, like the Oud dude. There's a band called Dual Decibel System, one of my favorites in this area. They come over. Kevin, of course, Coral. We're still doing that little community thing of, you know, I mean, you know, when Kevin Coral comes over, we have some freaking Bloody Marys and get a little buzzed, and then we wheel and deal because he's got as big a studio as I do. and he wants some of my stuff and I want some of his, and who knows where the shit goes. And like 4 years later, I'm like, do you got that piece of mine? He goes, yeah. I mean, like, it's like two libraries, he takes my stuff, I take his, it's all good. It's a great time.
And to clarify for those, if you guys haven't seen the pictures we've posted on Instagram and Facebook and everything, Sean's house is a studio, to put it. I mean,
Yes.
you have,
No.
what was it,
Okay,
a
so
harpsichord in your kitchen?
I have a harpsichord, I have a clavichord, I mean, Marshalls, I mean, Jesus, and Farkle, Billy Paycheck Jr., like, is my roommate. And okay, so he lives on the floor of one with a 32 channel console. I mean, because we're running like 100 channels, man. I mean, like I got the 48 Allen Heath, I got a 24 Allen Heath, the 32 Mackie, a couple of small Mackies. It's just like, okay, the greatest story ever is about 3 years ago. Me and Farkas are in there playing, and we had everything on, about the whole house. All right, I kind of live in this weird place that's not quite country, but kind of country. There's one telephone pole across my street, and there's a transformer at the top. About 8:30 at night, all you heard was like the atom bomb go off. We blew the transformer off the pole.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. So we took down Darrowville, as I like to say.
Jeez.
So I'm like, I better call somebody.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
How much gear did you have running, and how hard was it hitting?
We had a lot. Let me tell you. Okay, I'm okay. I've blown the Mackie 8s.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get that fixed. We got a spare speaker for that. I've blown those. I've blown JBL 4208s. I've blown KLHs. We're down to right now a pair of shit stereo speakers until we get the Mackies fixed. I mean, my God, it's like to mix on those things. It's see, okay, when it's passive monitors,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm running my power amp is a Carver 600. Of course, I'll blow those fuckers off the frame.
Yeah.
And I got a vintage a DBX 162. It's a 77 bus compressor,
Oh,
which just thumps like, I mean, it thumps. That thing thumps.
Yeah, and that is one thing. It seems like a lot of people overdo the compression nowadays. I actually went back and listened to some of my old stuff.
That's me again.
Hey, it's not Primus, so we're good.
My thing is like, okay, if you can hear it breathe, bring it back a hair. If I can hear the compression, and hear it like the ducking,
Mm-hmm.
you got to bring it back.
Yeah. I mean,
I like the thump.
Yeah, like if you're doing a little side chain, that's where I cut in the ducking and will kind of push it a little more. But I think that's one thing a lot of, and it's my opinion that a lot of people new to trying to make a career of music, like you have and like I have, they push that compression too hard because they think that there's that loudness battle still going on.
No. I go with it every day. I mean, you got to use your ears, I mean, but, I mean, I take it to the limit, and I've gone over, and that's why I got a pile full of blown up speakers.
I've done that.
Just a little more.
Well, I told you I got those other near fields just so I don't desensitize my ears to the 8 inches. I hooked up that Integra 7 that I just got, and I was going through, and it's like, oh, low bass. It's like, oh, yeah, I know how they all say low bass. I hit low bass, and I instantly was turning it down because it was starting to sound like the one of those rattly farts. It's like, oh, crap, I just plugged it. I'm going to blow them already. And I was like, wow, that does go low.
All right. So a guy named Dave Ogilvy, okay. He's the mixer and musician from Skinny Puppy. All right, so we hired for our first record Ogilvy to come in. I'm a giant fan. To mix, not produce, but mix. We produced it. I did give him a 1 production number credit on it. but we did it in Master Control in Burbank, which the Pixies have been. I mean, it's a giant fucking freaking studio, SSL, the whole thing, and it had Genelex, which I'm not a fan of, and NS10s. And Ogilvy wasn't there 10 minutes. I met him. We made our introduction. He immediately went up and turned the console, the SSL on, and blew tones through the NS10s and demanded that they get new cones. He said they were blown. Demanded. I mean, he wasn't there 10 minutes, man.
Oh, jeez.
That was I gotta say, that was a great experience. He then brought Anthony Volsick in, who was also the editor of Skinny Puppy. He's now doing Julian K. He's a world-renowned producer, engineer, the whole thing. So Volsick came in to do the digital edits on our stuff. And what I learned from those guys, because Ogilvy was very like teaching-like. So it'd be me and him sitting at the SSL. And he gave me the magic chart. And I show it to people. The magic chart is the complete Skinny Puppy sound. Okay. It is a chart with clock divisions, 1/16, 1/8, quarter, 3/16, as it goes down. As you put a rhythm in, that thing of Skinny Puppy when the delay goes in time.
Yeah.
So that's 1/16 and 3/16. So then on the side is all your tempo markings from 77 to like 250. You then go over like a graph and you look at the 1/16 and 3/16. I'm talking in time, inline, delay, no matter what tempo, you're always there. So to get that everything like completely freaking in time, that was the greatest thing those guys gave me. It just is the best.
They do have some complex rhythms, which was very interesting hearing that.
To use that on a bass, boom, boom. So your bassist is going boom, 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 and then all of a sudden it goes, in time, in line, like it's unbelievable. He also taught me how to use. Okay, let's say I have a drum machine and I have a console, and I insert the console, the output of the drum machine in, say, like sub-8 of your console.
Mm-hmm.
You then have a gate, like a quad gate or something like that. You put it on key, which is a click instead of gate to key gate.
Mm-hmm.
And then you plug your drum machine into the key gate, the output. And then you plug, let's say, a keyboard, and you're going to just hold down a chord. And you then sub that to that drum key gate. Whatever rhythm the drum machine is going, that comes out on your keyboard. So you can just hold down the chord like, and all of a sudden it's whatever drum machine rhythm in. I mean, those guys taught me a lot, I must say.
So that was kind of like a workaround for an arpeggiator for just about anything you wanted, just like that kind of, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it does. It gives rhythmic content to whatever you input it.
That is really cool. I mean, it's on everything and all the DAWs and stuff, but that's how it actually came about. That's really, really cool.
Dude, I don't do DAWs. I mean, like I'm freaking hardware based.
Yeah.
I walked from DAWs 20 years ago. I mean, in our studio, yes, we have Pro Tools, Ableton, Logic X, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do I use it? Absolutely not. Farkle, yes, he does. My thing, I mean, my still control center is the same thing from 1996. It's an MPC 2000, an MPC 1000, and that's my whole. It controls everything. It controls my modular. I've got a module U MIDI that takes MIDI and inputs it into CD gate, so that fires my boxes and stuff. But yeah, I mean, dude, I just I can't. I just got to have my hand on something and tweakable, and at this point, I can't see the damn screen on thing anyway. So. It's so bad right now, dude. When I go in, because I turn on every day, I'll go in there. It's like muscle memory. I've got these cheaters that like help me see a little, but I still can't see the damn screen. But it's muscle memory. I know, like on the MPC, what I got to do this, and all my samplers. I mean, I'm hardware based. I'm very lucky. I'm not a hoarder.
None
But
of us musicians are. Whoever says that you
I'm a little, I'm
don't
a
need
little,
that
I'm a little
negativity.
hoarded. I'm a little hoardish. But dude, they got a Prophet 3000. You say to people, Prophet 3000, like, what are you talking about? Prophet 3000s, that's a 16-bit sampler that was their last product before they went down. They only made 100 of them. I got number 98. I bought it at a trade show. I was very lucky on that. I mean, pieces like that, man. I mean, it's just like, yeah,
Your
yeah.
black Gibson that you've used and abused, that
All right.
is.
So that black Les Paul, that's a 1982 Heritage 80. That was their first version of a 59 reissue. That was my main touring guitar. It was brand new looking when I got it. I mean, half the bout's gone. First off, I said, why did you paint it black? Because I've had dudes look at it and it's completely flame top all up and down. They only made about 10 or 12 black ones in that series. It's got PAFs in it. It chunks like amazing. I mean, we did the Fort Apache thing. Okay, compared to Master Control, so we went to Fort Apache, which is in Boston, which is Paul Kohler and Sean Slade. They did Lush, Radiohead, the whole record, the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, and 1,000 other bands. But I took that record, that amp and that guitar up there, and they have an incredible collection of amps and guitars. And Coldery was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. All right, that amp, I got it, I don't know, maybe 91. Okay, so it was an American style Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
So it had 6552s. All right, I was friends with Mike Perkeiser. I still am. He was Lux Interior's brother from the Cramps, and he does guitar stuff. And he rewired that. It's a Marshall JMP 100 watts. So he rewired to the English specs and put EL34 tubes in it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely the greatest amp I've ever played. And I have a crosshatch bottom that's 1971. I actually have another bottom that was owned by Wings, and I hate Wings. But
See, and that's you don't hear about like hot rodded amps like that, and that actually was back in the '80s and all the way right up till right around the 2000s. You wanted your own tone. You had to pretty much find someone to hot rod him. I got a buddy I went to high school with. He stopped a couple years ago, but he hot rodded Crybabies, and I mean
yeah,
he actually got to stop doing construction because he had so many coming through, and finally he's like, I don't have time to do this.
oh,
I'm
yeah.
going back to construction.
Well,
So
I mean, okay, so before Perkeiser got a hold of that amp with 6550s, that's the sound of Metallica.
hmm
When I got it back with the EL34s, it was AC/DC. So it's so much tighter, in the distortion, the mid range. It's just still to this day I just love that amp, man.
I preferred the ELs
Oh, you
in
got
my amps.
yeah.
They just I mean like I had original 5150 when they first came out with the 1960 full sack,
Mhm.
slant and straight cab, and I just the ELs they just seem to have a I don't know.
They're tighter, ballsier, just a nicer tone in my world.
Yeah,
Not as much like just thing. It's a more tight thing.
yeah, and if you wanted to add that extra oomph to it, you could just throw a pedal in it, and with that sound, and they'd be good. So
All
I
right. So
mean,
did you see that picture? I think I sent you of that 1966 Fender Super Reverb 410.
yeah,
Yeah, they're sitting with a couple. Okay, I got that through Calvin Coral, of course, over a couple of cocktails. Um, but that was one of the Numbers Band's amps. It is just an incredible amp, I have to say. Always been a fan. Never. I've had some twins. I've had some super or dual reverbs. Never had a super. the damn thing is heavier than hell. That's the problem with it.
Well, I know I was looking up when I found out. I asked you if that was a CS80 in one of the pictures, and you were like, no, it's a 50. I
Yeah.
went and looked at the weights on that thing, and people preferred the CS50 because it was like, what, 200 pounds lighter than the 80? I could not believe the weight
Yes,
on those
the
things.
the 80 was 200 and the 50 was 100. All right, so I had an 80, and I did put a picture up of Danny Curtin myself, and Danny is a world-renowned DJ, lives in Berlin now, and we used to have this thing. But there was the picture of my 80. The problem with the 80, okay, you're at literally 240 pounds. Every time you move it, there's an issue
Oh,
because something goes wrong with it. I mean, it's like moving a coffin, dude. I mean, it had wheels, it'd go over a bump, and then you couldn't get it in tune. Um, I sold that thing probably 20 years ago for parts. I still did pretty good for parts. No, I just saw one. One just sold for $100,000.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I had that, and I had a Jupiter 8 too. The Roland.
Mm-hmm.
Those go for about 40.
Jeez.
And I'm like, okay, that could have been a house.
Yeah. I know, and just some of the gear you're telling me about, it's like, I know, you're
Okay,
gonna
okay.
show us your museum, and I'm like, there's gonna be people tuning in. They're
No,
just gonna be, oh my gosh, passing out.
no, the greatest one. This is the greatest story ever. So I'm in college, and I started at Kent, and then I went to OSU for a year, and then came back and finished at Kent. But at OSU, so I'm playing funk and blues.
Mhm.
I'm like the token white man in an all black band kind of bullshit. And I had a Rhodes 88 suitcase, a nice piece, and my Rogue Moog, my Opus 3, and a clavinet. That was my setup, and a wah wah pedal for my playing One Nation Under a Groove and all that kind of bullshit. And I get home one day, and the Lantern, that was the college newspaper, I opened up, and there's an ad that says ARP 2600 for sale. All right, I knew what a 2600 was. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, oh God. So I called the guy, and it took about a month, me going back and forth. And okay, School Kid Records, Columbus, Ohio. Like, I walk in and I see this record cover, and it's Depeche Mode, Everything Counts. All right, I'm a total blues, funk, jazz dude. I bought it. I took it home and played it, and I said, I got to own this synthesizer. It changed my taste in one hit listen. So we went back and forth. He finally traded me the Rhodes 88 suitcase, which is worth about $6,000 or $7,000 today, for the 2600. I'm sorry, 14,000 today. I still own that bastard. It still works. It's still got his name, Brian Helm. I'll never forget his name because it says B Helm on the cases.
I talked to you, and the speakers actually work in that. The original speakers you were telling me, which that was mind blowing because that paper in there, especially the older ones, that degrades over
Oh no,
time.
no, no! The great, it's got an Accutronics reverb in it. So anyway, when Behringer brought out their 2600,
Mm-hmm.
okay, fuck you, Behringer haters. My thing, Sweetwater called me and they said, "Hey, we got one in your name." They're $5.99. Are you kidding me? I said, "Okay, I'll take it." I have set, and then Kevin Coral has the Blue Marvin.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin came over to the studio. So we set my old one, my new one, and his new one up, and we A/B'd. I'm telling you, I'm sorry, dude. They sound exactly the same. So then on my old one, I have the ARP patch book with everything from Edgar Winter stuff till other stuff. So I sat down for a weekend and I said, okay, I'm going to duplicate the patches in the Behringer to see if they sound the same. Dead mint, man. Dead on. So yeah, I'm a fan.
And see, that's why
Love
I
it.
know when we first started talking, what I kind of wanted to. I was timid at asking. I was like, "So, what's your thought on Behringer clones?" And you're like, "I love them." And I was like, Okay, and I mean, someone like you, when you
Li-
say
li-
they sound spot
Listen,
on.
listen. Me and Kevin are like the dudes in the Indian thing. You know, we're always in a circle because people are hassling us about the Behringer stuff. Fuck you, man. I mean, okay, in my day, I owned a cat. I bought, and I sold it when I was a kid. I bought their cat, which I'm sorry, $219. Are you kidding me? Spot on. I still have my original Sequential Pro One, which is a beautiful piece.
Yeah.
But I bought their Pro One because it's damn MIDI, and I've set that thing up next to my original. Right on. I bought their MS-20, their whatever they call their version, the module version of it. I'm sorry. The only thing I forgot about that, instead of CV gate, it's Hertz, brother. So I got to get a Hertz converter.
And see, that's why you read reviews and stuff, but once you start telling me that, if any of you guys are second guessing the Behringer stuff, I take this man's word when it says spot on because he's owned the original. I have the Wasp and the Pro One. I love the sound of a Wasp, and you actually had a real one, so that's why I was like, so how do they sound? Because I always loved the sound of the Wasp.
I mean,
So
I have a picture of myself someplace like years ago with a Wasp going like this, the celluloid keyboard, the whole thing. The whole thing about the Wasp is the filter, and the sound of the filter. That was the classic sound of the Wasp. And man, I got that thing, and I'm just like, I mean, it's spot on, man, spot on. So I don't have a
and
problem with
more reliable than the than the original. I know that was the one they were at. Yeah, the reliability on the original one wasn't quite
that.
there.
No,
So and I
Chris Huggett. Chris Huggett was the dude that designed those things, but he also designed the Oscar. That is one synth in my life that I would love to have an Oscar, and I hope Behringer makes it because you can't touch an Oscar. I mean, they're way out of the field. An
yeah,
Oscar was, you know what an Oscar, that was a monophonic synth, the Oxford Synthesizer Company, and it was the same dude that did the Cat, the Wasp, all that stuff. Oscar's incredible sound.
I
One day.
I cannot say I've seen one. I've heard the name in passing, and it's typically referring to universities have it. Not
Yes.
I've
Yeah,
never
but
heard a general person having. I've heard them mentioned reading through my synthesizer books that this university or that university has one, and
I touched one years ago. That's all I can say.
well, I
I did
know
touch one.
just that I think it was one they were saying like, gosh, when was it? 70s or 80s. Back then, it was close to 50 grand, if I remember correctly, and it took up almost a room. If I'm thinking correctly. Don't take my word on it because my memory isn't working the greatest today, apparently.
Well, so when I got out of college, I got a job at this place called Pi Keyboards and Audio. Okay, pretty renowned. All right, it wasn't just a music store. We sold MCI consoles made by Sony. We sold absolute upper end studio stuff, and then some keyboards. But the kind of keyboards we sold were like Synclaviers and PPG and upper end Rolands and oh my God, what were some of those the weird ones? Centaurs. And okay, the people I worked there with, huh, okay, Trent Reznor. This is pre 9 Inch. I worked with him there for a year. He was living still at his grandparents' house in Mercy. He'd drive in every day to uh, Brook Park to work. A guy named Doug Beck, who went on to be one of the greatest remixers, Madonna and everybody else. A guy named Steve Cox, who was in the Daz band. Frank Vale and Mark Best, who were playing with Trent at the time in Exotic Birds. Um, Great experience knowing those guys. And I got a phone call one day, and it was from Kent, Ohio. It was Woodsy's Music. And I know Paul, who owned it, and they were looking for a keyboard dude and to do backline audio stuff, some mixing. So I went. And was at Woodsy's for a few years and then got signed to Capitol out of Woodsy's. Because Rob was working there too. I mean, like I say, every piece of gear in the early days, it was all Woodsy's that we used. We would just take the stuff out of the back room, whatever we needed.
Now, one thing I do want to touch on, you actually started performing at a semi-pro and pro level very, very young. Very,
All right,
very young.
I have lived a fairly charmed musical life. I mean, I'm from a musical family. My great uncle, who I never knew, but he's a world-renowned concert pianist, educator, teacher, knighted by the King of Italy, founded the University of Akron School of Music in 1948. So when I'm 6 years old, we inherited this giant grand piano. And immediately my parents put me in lessons with Mrs. Greenwald, who was a Juilliard person. And I was with her for probably, I'll bet you, 18 years. And so I'm 15 years old, I'm in 10th grade. And there was a traveling blues band, these 60-year-old black guys that were pretty renowned, Otis Trotter, I mean, pretty renowned. And they approached my parents because they'd heard of me. My dad was a principal, my mom was a teacher, and asked if they could take me from Thursday to Sunday, bring me back Sunday, because they traveled. I was doing like Chicago, like that. I mean, and God bless my parents, they said yes. I mean, they were probably out of their freaking minds. But let me tell you, whatever I went through in college, which was a great experience, that was the greatest musical thing that I mean, I learned how to tour, I learned how to play, and we were playing, all right, I'm 15 years old, white guy, kid, and we're playing Roadhouses, man, like black Roadhouses. And they were very protective of me. But yeah, okay, so we're driving in like, I think it was a 74 Fleetwood Cadillac with all of us in my piano and shit like that. It was like the Blues Brothers. And I remember Otis turned around, I'm 15 years old, and I'd never smoked a cigarette before. And he gave me a cool because he smoked cools. And he always went, yeah, yeah, that's what he'd always say. So he gave me the cigarette and lit it, and he goes, smoke it down to where it says cool, like at the tip of the fucking filler. I've never smoked cigarettes again. No, I smoked shag with my weed because that's a Dutch and shit like that, but I never smoked a cigarette. And then like I'm 16 and we're at some place, I don't know, some roadhouse, and I hadn't drank yet. And something called Harvey Wallbangers, whatever that is, I still don't know what kind of mixed drink that is. He got me toasted. So I didn't drink for years. Now I drink like a fish today, but I mean, at that time, I'm like,
wow.
So no, that is the greatest education anyone could ever.
So they were working at keeping you from getting into that stuff
Oh yeah.
at a young age.
Okay, here's the greatest story. This kind of shit. I think I'm 16 and I'm playing at a place called the Royal Peacock. All right, let me tell you, Roadhouse. And the guy, I played there many times, and I kind of became friends with this guy named John L. He was a very dapper black man that always wore a suit. And, he'd come into the green room, he was friends of Otis and stuff like that. We talk and stuff like that. Your token white dude, And for a couple of weeks, he wasn't there. And, we played, because we were playing there weekly at that time. And I said to Otis, hey, man, where's John L? He goes, he had an accident. I'm like, oh, okay. So the next week he comes in. I said, John L. I said, where you been? He goes, I got shot in Youngstown. I'm 16 years old. I got shot in Youngstown. You want to see it? I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, and he's got this fucking bullet hole right there. I'm just like, woo.
Now, if you don't know what a Roadhouse is, you can go watch the movie with Patrick Swayze to get an idea. But they were very rough clubs. A lot of them probably shouldn't have been in business. They were kind of under the radar, but they were very, very rough venues. And Green
Ah,
Room, for you don't know,
I can
Green
never.
Room's backstage for the artist.
Okay, so I'm a white guy, like young kid, from a fairly like, not from this culture, and but my parents out of their minds. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking about, because I'd get back Sunday, and I'd be like, I'd have to sleep all day, and then thank God my dad lined up. I had a study hall, uh, first thing in the morning, so I could go in there and sleep, after the Sunday when I get back Sunday. But I mean, I just to this day, like I say, thank God for him because it absolutely the greatest experience of my life. I mean, Dink, whatever, but that geared me up for things to come later.
And that is cool because I mean, like Dink and how far you guys went, and that the most important one is back when you first started out. I think that's really cool. And for those who keep seeing my camera making funny noise, we've got the storms rolling in here, and whenever the ground freezes, it acts stupid sometimes. So just so you know, everything's good. It's just the ground's getting frozen here in Missouri.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys have been getting hit by the stuff we got down here, man, but it's going from like 40 to the day to like 0 at night. So
Yeah, we were like 7 last night here.
yeah, yeah. So it's just it's crazy. It's here in Missouri. Whenever the ground starts freezing, doesn't matter what your internet provider is, and if you're hardline or wireless, they act goofy. So, but man, it's just amazing hearing the stories and some of like you have some funny stories of guys stuff you guys did on tour.
Um,
I
I mean, we tried to work hard, but there was always a party involved. With Dink. I mean, uh, okay, our rider on the road was a bottle of Sky, a bottle of Jim Beam, a bottle of Jägermeister, a case of Guinness, a case of local, and then 3 of us were vegetarian, and then for trays for that. How much can you drink?
I
Yeah, let me tell you. My thing. Okay, drugs never took Dink down. Alcohol. Okay, Jesus fucking Christ. From
and
day
I can
one.
say, man, I never went. The most I'd ever had before going on stage was a beer. I know too many people who I play better drunk. Nah, you're just thinking that. But once off stage, that was a whole different. That's when it was party time. There are nights I don't remember how I got home or all my gear. I know I didn't drive because they were a buddy had my keys, but I don't know how I got home.
Here's a great one. So we played in New York City. We played at a really famous club called the Limelight, which was a church. It's closed now, but I played there a bunch of times. And we had to go. This was a bus tour, and we had to go through customs because the next night was in Toronto. And we went to a bar after we played, and our lawyer took us, Michael Turock. Okay, he was also Trent's lawyer and Marilyn Manson's lawyer, and we got freaking hammered. So we had to stand outside the bus, and our tour manager shook us down. We had to throw all our pipes and weed into the street because he didn't want to go through customs with it. And I'm thinking, okay, we'll just get to Toronto and go to the venue and buy because every venue's got their due. So anyway, I was really drunk. Did not remember going through customs. And they said I got up and I stood up and don't remember anything. We get to the venue and I'm saying, we got to find the dude. We got to get some weed and blah, 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 blah. And Jared looked over and he goes, Jesus Christ. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I had a shirt on with a pocket. He goes, look at your pocket. There was a ½ ounce of weed sticking out of my pocket.
And you went through customs like that? Oh my god.
Now, here's another great Canadian customs story. So we're going into Vancouver and we're coming out of the United States, and They tore our bus apart looking for drugs. Tore our bus apart. But in the meantime, they take us into like the celebrity lounge of customs. And this woman's there in her uniform, customs uniform, and she brings out a book and she goes, "Will you please sign the registrar coming into Canada, the celebrity registrar?" I signed right below Tony Bennett. I was like, "This is fucking great." I was like, I love Tony Bennett, you know. Oh yeah.
Wow,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
that is just. I never went that far with touring. I don't know if that's good or bad for me with my health issues, but to hear your road stories,
No,
it's
I
amazing.
do. I will get you a copy of. I haven't been able to get out, but I will get you a copy of the documentary, which is
Hmm.
Jorge's thing of us. It only scratches the surface, but it scratches it pretty good. I mean, as he likes to say, we were our own protagonists and our greatest antagonists. It was like self implosion in the end, man.
Now, I do want to know, like, Green Mind was one chord. Like you said, it just
All
one
right, listen,
chord.
this is honest God truth. Green Mine,
Hmm.
I wrote it in under 5 minutes. It's one chord. We got the groove. I put the samples in. I had this drum loop going. All right, so okay, Mark Pistol, if you're watching, I love you. Okay, a band called Consolidated. Do
Hmm.
you know Consolidated? All right, that is
I
Mark
know the
Pistol.
name.
All right,
I know the
all right.
name.
So every quarter when I get my check from BMI, I split it with Consolidated and for Green Mind and Jared. I wrote the music, Jared wrote the words. But let me tell you, sampling in the day. All right, of course, the KLF, who's absolute mentors to me, they got caught first. All right, 1993, they're clearing our samples. A 1 second fucking sample from a song called Friendly as Fascism. There's Pistol right there, probably. I get caught. 1 second. All it does is for Green Mind. And then I added like Ed and three other drum loops on top of it. I get caught. I have to split my freaking um, uh, rights, my songwriting rights to that. So anyway, I'm in New York City like a couple years later, and Philip Stewart, who was a drummer who did some remixing for Dink, we were at some place in New York City, and Stewart comes up to me. He goes, "I love you guys, blah blah blah," and he goes, "That wasn't us. It was a James Brown sample that they fucked with and didn't get caught, and we got caught on the James Brown sample."
So all
But
along.
all I can say is cheers, because God damn it, cheers. I mean, I okay, I love a band called Negative Land. You may not know those guys; they're way out there. But just remember, copyright infringement is your best entertainment value. That's all I'm going to tell you. I live by that mantra. Okay, we had a number one hit called Angels.
Hmm.
Listen to it sometimes. Listen to it, and then let me tell you, New Order, Blue Monday, turned backwards.
See, and now that's the crazy
No,
thing. You get into sampling, they now have automated software, which isn't even always correct
oh
with
no, no,
hip
no,
hops.
no. Let me tell you. I mean, we had a lot of samples on the first record, and some of them they gave us to it, like the Jimi Hendrix Foundation.
Hmm.
Okay, we had a song called whatever the fuck it was called, Mary, whatever the thing was. Anyway, I had a sample from what the fuck was her name? And it's a girl saying, "Excuse me while I kiss this guy." So I gave it to Capital's lawyer because they had to find it. I knew who it was, and I wasn't going to tell them. And they said they couldn't find it, and they cleared it. Oh, the Flying Lizards is the name of the band. In the end, I had to look at my A&R guy, and I said, "Dude, they're on your label. They didn't even know the freaking came from a band on their label.
Oh wow, and that's and I
So they
unfortunately
didn't.
that's how sometimes labels, especially the big labels, they don't even know
You know.
their left
I
hand
mean,
from the right hand.
Capital's been sold 6 times since we were on it. They don't even know who the fuck we are. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, we're in some wherever their underground shit of masters are. They don't even know who we are. Which is a good thing in my world.
Eh,
I mean,
and well, yeah, I know we had talked shortly before, and what a lot of people trying to become professional musicians or career musicians don't realize, labels get a stranglehold on you. And I mean they are as horrible as it sounds. Big labels are they may play nice, but they're not always your friend. A prime
that,
example, the
see,
pandemic, man.
that's the whole thing. It's so different now than then. I mean, are there labels? I mean, the streaming thing. I'm sorry, you ain't gonna make any money. I have 25,000 streams on this thing. I get 15 cents. Fuck you.
Exactly.
I and it like I say, I will always say I will always be grateful and thank you because I was the end of the big machine. I mean, they put the money up for us to go out and tour.
Hmm.
They put the money up for the advertising. I mean, that was in your advance. You get $1 million. Okay, if the label gives you $1 million, they're going to take. Well, our green mine costs 55 or no, 150,000 for the video. Um, and then all the press, all that money's taken out of your advance,
Hmm.
and then you go out. I mean, like I say, I mean, when we toured, we were stupid and we never took a salary. So we did pay Hughes, who did our videos, and Andrew McAllister, who was our sound guy. We put them on $650 a week. In the '90s, that's pretty damn good money.
Yeah, yeah. In the
Um,
'90s, that was damn good money.
all right. So what the five of us took, I got a $12.50 a day food buyout and a $25 a day per diem. All right, so that's $37.50. All right, so there's five of us. Now we get fed every day. The green room and shit like that. You're into it. So what we would do is take that $150 of our shit, the per diem and the food buyout, and we buy weed every day at the venue. That's how we got through it. Because
That
every
is.
every venue in the day had a guy that sold weed.
You know what? That is not exactly the case. I got a couple buddies and you would figure the metal scene would be one of the biggest ones, and they
Yeah,
went through like 18 states, and they ended up putting up signs on their merch table, "Weed guy, where are you?" Because they couldn't find one in 18
right.
states, so they actually put signs on their
Okay.
merch table.
This is the only time it went south. We're in Milwaukee. Okay. So it's me and the Dutch, and we're out of weed. We pull into town. And we look at each other, we got everybody's money, and they stayed in the club, and we go out. Okay, we're in the fucking hood. I mean, the hood. We're right across the street from the hotel that Jeffrey Dahmer lived in. This is how bad it was.
Oh
That is
wow.
honest. That's honest, guys. So we're sitting on a thing waiting for some guy to come by and say, hey, where we can get weed. And we see these dudes going up to this apartment. Thank God nobody killed us. And I said, hey, do you know where we can get some weed? You got two hillbillies. You got a Dutch guy, a Dutch Euro trash, and a hillbilly from Kent sitting there. And they were like, yeah, give me $25, I'll get you. It was a crack house, man. Okay, so we lost $100 that way.
Oh
Yeah.
jeez.
And then the greatest one was the guy who was in a suit and tie. Looked like he was okay. He went up there, we gave him the $25 and said, we've been ripped off. He brought us back a bag. It was grass, like grass from your yard.
Oh my.
So so me and Ed were like, we've now lost $125. And we said, fuck this. We go back into the club. And those guys are like, where have you been? And they're all rolling joints. And I'm like, what the fuck is. They said, you just didn't wait long enough. I'm like, they said, fuck you. I said, we don't have any of your money.
That is that can get scary. I used to do downtown St. Louis, and I know you toured in St. Louis years ago. St. Louis is not even what is was back then. Especially, I used to play in East St. Louis, which is the bad part. And you had it wouldn't even go and looking. The crack dealers now go looking for you. You cannot walk down the street with, "Hey man, you need this, you need that," in a
I,
lot of those areas now.
I told Cheryl the story tonight. We were talking about some stories. Okay, St. Louis. There's a really tall hotel right next to, what is that, 80 or 70? I can't remember. By the
70. It's the Lumineer now. It's now a casino and stuff. I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
Yes. So coming in, um, for some reason, we stopped at a fireworks store and bought like 200 fucking bottle rockets. We're on like the 35th floor or some bullshit like that hotel. Right next to, there's the hotel, there's the highway, and then there's the arch. Well, at that time they had balconies. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, we take the 300 bottle rockets out there with a couple of beer bottles and we blow them across 70. I mean, you could hear cars go, stuff like that. So we had a 7 o'clock call downstairs, and we come down, and there's two cops, and they got all this, empty shit from the bottle rockets, and they're like, "What went on here last night?" Blah blah blah. We were just like, walk by.
Now, people not from St. Louis, where he's talking about, it's downtown. It's right by the river. It's where 70, 270, 55, 255,
Yes,
40,
yes,
64, and 44, all these major interstates come together in one giant hub.
yeah. And we're blowing fireworks off across all of them.
Yeah, so I mean there's like 4 or 5 bridges crossing the river. It is just chaos. Interchanges, and so I can only imagine the insanity considering fireworks, except for the professional ones they do at the Arch. Fireworks have been illegal in St. Louis for a long
Right.
time.
Rob Lightbody will never see this. Rob Lightbody was just a great musician. We parted company, and that's it. It was the end of the band. But this is a great Rob Lightbody story, because there are many Rob Lightbody stories. So we're in Dallas, Texas, Deep Ellum, a place called Trees. Um, I'm a giant fan of NC 900 Foot Jesus, and this was his club that he used to play at. So I was really excited about playing there. And we did a good show, and the local TV station was there, and your token Asian chick reporter and other girl and a dude for cameraman. So Rob did the fucking interview. We all went back to the hotel. Okay. We stayed at the Embassy, which was where John F. Kennedy was supposed to stay the day this 5-star fucking hotel was awesome. We got to the hotel and realized AES, Audio Engineering Society, was also in town. Walked into the bar, and lo and behold, we knew a bunch of guys from Audio Technica, which is from our neck of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So it was on. They closed at 1. Those guys pulled out like $500 or $600, laid it on the table. They kept open for another 2 hours. So we got hammered. Okay, no sign of Rob Lightbody. All right. Apparently, from what I get, he went to party with the token Asian reporter and her friend. Sans the dude with the camera. So it was just the 3 of them. They got in the car, and the token Asian chick pulled out some acid. Gave Rob one. She took one. The other chick one. Okay. They start driving. Rob didn't think he was getting off. He did another one. Somewhere down the line, they were in a car wreck. We're now in the industrial flats of Dallas, from what I understand, like refineries and shit. Rob freaks out. He gets out of the car and he runs. At one point, I heard he met up with a homeless guy. He had $15 in his pocket and bought a 12-pack, and they killed it. and now he's like starting to freak out. So it's probably 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. We have a $7 o'clock call to get out of there. All right. So 7 o'clock, we're all down in the foyer of the thing of the embassy, and foyer. And where's Rob? All right. Apparently, at one point, he got freaked out and he saw a police car and flagged it down. All right, you're tripping balls, dude. And apparently he said, I got this through mostly Finn, because he used to talk to Finn and not me on this kind of shit. But apparently he said, I'm in a rock and roll band on tour. I don't know where I'm at, and I don't know where I'm staying. Okay. You're in Texas, brother. So we're getting ready to go out, and we're like 20 minutes late, and all of a sudden the doors open, and there's two cops and Rob. He looks like he's been drug under a truck. All his clothes are torn. There's dirt all over him, and the cops, we're just like, thank God for the chick at the concierge. The cop was like, do you have a touring rock and roll band staying here? And she goes like, yes. And she goes, is this one of their members? And she goes, what's his name? And they said his name. She goes, yes, he is. So they signed off on him. Okay, tripping balls. We get in the van and we go. We're in the middle. We have a 14-hour drive to fucking Austin. He gets in the van. He puts his hoodie up and he goes like this, so there's only a hole like this big, like in the front of his thing. We have 14 freaking hours to drive. All you hear is sounds like woo, woo. All right, our tour manager, bless his heart, says, fuck this. He goes, I'm hungry. So he knew the area because he toured every quarter. Pulled into this absolute total Mexican place. Picnic tables, ain't a white person in there. And we went in, I thought it was great. And he got this, like, the most colorful bullshit I've ever seen on a plate for Rob. And he pulled Rob's head down and he just like would stir it around the colors. And Rob would go, ooh.
Oh my God.
Dude, I mean, we had to play every freaking night. I'm like, that night he was still out of his mind. I was like, oh, jeez.
And I don't think people realize how hard, not the S part, but playing every night it's mentally draining, and it is physically, man. It taxes you.
It's also a speed-like thing, because once you start playing every night, you get really good. I mean, like, where you don't have to think about anything, man. It's automatic, and you're on. And it's like it's just like you get out there and you do it, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of playing every night.
Yeah, it's just the music, and that's what I kind of say it is. It's the music takes over. You're so used to it. It's just the music talks, and you're just there doing it.
muscle memory, man.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy yourself and perform a show once you don't have to worry about playing your parts and stuff like that.
It's just the recovery afterwards and lugging gear that catches up with you. Because I know, like, my right shoulder is all tore up. I'm right-handed. I always carried my heads and my heavy guitars in my right hand since I was right-handed, and I got a tore up right shoulder now from it. I wish somebody would have warned me then.
I got to tell you, I mean, my left shoulder from that black Les Paul. I have two I used to have 12 Les Pauls. I'm down to 2. I'm down to the black one, which I mean is a brick. That was my main thing. Now, my 53, the gold top, half the weight. But there's a difference in sound. The 53 sings, the black one is a chunker, man. It chunk. It's a beautiful freaking sound.
Yeah, that much denser wood. So
yes.
So it's I follow all that nerd stuff too. Now I want to discuss. I've started leaning more hardware. I think it's something a lot of musicians do is they get more experience, mature. They step away from in the box, and you were on the forefront of DAWs when they first hit. You were one of the first people to drop big bucks to go get into one.
My God, 84, I bought that damn Mac 512. Half a meg. It was $3,800. Half a meg. And I was into Master Tracks Pro and Pro 4. I mean, I did DAW-based stuff until I got my MPC in like '96. And I'm sorry, it just hardware. I like to put my hands, I like to be tactile with it. I like to move stuff. Um, it just, I like to, cut and paste. Okay. I mean, I can cut and paste on the fucking MPC. Oh, my cat's here. That's one of my cats.
You know what? Sometimes I have my birds with me. Pets are always welcome.
That green thing, my God, man.
Yeah, that's one of them. That's the largest of our four. We actually
I
have
got
four.
I could not believe the size of that bird when you sent me that picture. I was just like, holy shit.
Yep. He is the largest of ours. He's actually the only one known to exist in the world. So he's an asshole too. I got scars from him.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I got those around. But I mean, like you, I did electric guitar. I started with Chuck Berry was my guy, and Chuck Berry got me into guitar, and then discovered Metallica and that stuff. But I've noticed, yeah, the software, the DAWs work, but I guess it's because I started out on a quote unquote, as some people for real instrument. I just started out on hardware. I like the feel of the knobs, whether it's digital synth, analog, it's a guitar pedal, a board. I don't know if you think the same. You can get more fine tuned if you're actually touching the knobs
Oh,
rather than trying to turn the mouse.
absolutely. I was very lucky. I was involved early on with a place called the Recording Workshop, which is a school in Southern Ohio. And at that time, it was like MCI consoles and Studer 2 inches, 20, really high end stuff. And they had 4 studios, big time stuff. And I would do the MIDI thing there and mix some stuff. They're still going right now in the Recording Workshop, but it's all digital now, of course, which I can't do.
Yeah, and I will. It's I don't know. Like I was explaining to you earlier, or telling you, I actually don't use a normal interface. I don't have them at the studio. I don't want to use them. I've convinced CEO to stay away just from interfaces. Everything is actually analog boards with that are interfaces because I believe you can get a lot more control.
You can.
I mean, I know I had already been told this, and you brought it up. Use your board as an instrument, which
Yes, absolutely.
unfortunately standard interfaces you can't. But when you get a board, even if it's a digital board, say like an X32 or something like that, you can record all your instruments at once and fine tune it and make just one giant sound. One cohesive, beautiful
Here's a
tone.
perfect example.
Yeah,
Right.
and
So I'm involved with a studio. It's kind of shut down now because the guy moved, but it's still there. All right. So it's all Pro Tools HD, so big time, the upper end stuff.
yeah,
And it's Neves and Avalons, a Control 24 console, um, Gentle X, which I hate. I'm sorry, those things sound like shit. That's just me. But it's difficult, man. It's difficult, even though that Control 24, you can't mess with the EQs. You got to go to your mouse and stuff like that. And I just, it's just not tactile enough for me. I just
yeah.
I can't.
The one part where I really get into like actual DAW EQs is that really I have some very nice VST EQs for mixing and mastering, but some of those you can get that little tiny bit, but when it's just straight recording, it's I go through the board. I don't touch anything
Yeah,
until I'm down to the mixing. It's like, okay, this frequency has to go, but there's nothing but you got your low, your mid, and your high on your board, and there you go, and work with that. So
I mean, my roommate Billy, he's got a Mac Pro, whatever MacBook thing, whatever, and he's the one with. I've got Pro Tools, but he's got Logic, which is what we use most of the time. But he's got all that SSL plugin stuff. He's got the Chandler plugin stuff. He's got the Abbey Road plugin stuff. He's got Ozone, which I like Ozone. That's a mastering tool.
Yeah, that one is very nice. It's a beast on a computer. It's a large program.
That sounds pretty good, Ozone. I have
Yeah,
to say.
and I mean, I'm not VST instruments do have their place, and some people prefer them. I think it's more
Oh
of
yeah, oh
a
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
I don't I prefer hardware. I like the even digital synths have a different sound than a VST. Don't get me wrong. I have my favorite VSTs I still
Oh no,
use,
no, I know.
but I mean, I think a lot of people that's what they should. I think you're probably in agreement. A lot of people who are totally in the box in the DAW should branch out and try an actual synthesizer that you got to put your hands on
Well,
and figure out.
as I always say, it's the little things. Okay, so little things are like I come down to Cheryl's on the weekend and stuff like that, and all I do is bring some little boxes that like don't really sync. Like I brought the Mogafoger down this weekend, which is a beautiful piece, and a circuit bent cassette player with a speed, and a reverb pedal, and some delay pedal, and some other stuff. I brought a chord monotron delay. That's a beautiful piece. And I'm like, man, I ain't even got a keyboard and I'm making great sounds. Like sound it to me, it's the little. It'll always be the little things that you
Yeah,
get your dust
and
together.
I mean, hearing some of those, because like I know I was commenting, you're posting some on Instagram, just the chiming tones and different pardon me, layers and stuff you can get. And honest to goodness, I I didn't see it was a Moog Fooger until after I was like, is that a Moog Fooger? And then you're like, yeah.
No,
And then
no,
I saw it, I was
oh
like,
yeah,
wow. I was like, crap. I wanted one of those back when I was, gosh, when I was in middle school and high school. I thought they were the coolest things. They were so damn expensive, and I was worried I'd get because back then it was metal and
they
rock. I was like, I can't use one of those and be metal and rock.
they still are expensive used.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're
friend of
probably
a friend of mine came up with that one. I got pretty good on that one.
oh
But
jeez,
yeah, they are
they're probably
expensive.
what running a couple grand nowadays if you can track a
Yeah,
working one now.
if you look at their delay, which just it's over 2 grand. I'm like, it's like, but they're based on original Moog 55 modules.
Hmm.
Uh, so I get it.
Yeah, and those I wonder I don't even know how hard those are to come by the actual Moog Fuggers, and they were created. If you don't know about it, it's actually most commonly I've seen it used as a guitar pedal.
Yes, yes.
Is some people use it for bass and stuff, but it was kind of like a mini synth you could plug your guitar into and kind of
Yeah.
it was probably I
They
want to say
made
the
they made
first
a
one
bunch.
to do that.
Yeah, they made a bunch of different models. That's the LFO and ring modulator, the one I was using today. They made a phaser, a delay. They made like 6 of them. I mean, they're hard to find. They are hard to find.
I remember getting the what was it, Musician's Friend or It's something all those catalogs, man. And every time I look at them, I was like, I want that one and that one and that one.
So,
Back,
so my roommate Farkle, I mean, he's gone through a humongous amount of gear. I'm a hoarder. He goes through stuff to get other stuff. But he had the complete set of Mooger Foogers in white.
I
They
didn't
made a
even know they
limited edition,
made them in white.
a limited edition of white.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, dude, you could retire today on this. Yeah.
I legitimately, yeah, especially because I didn't even know they exist. I've never heard of a white movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow, wow, those some of the stuff they made limited edition that you don't hear about. That's intriguing right there. Wow, that is really really intriguing. So your new band, your new project is Temple of Tomorrow. So
Yes.
you are doing a lo-fi big surf twang
Well,
sound as you've
okay.
described it.
That was our first outing. All right. So now we're going to get together tomorrow for the first time since the show, and I may start doing some programming for it with samples and some keyboards, and we'll see what happens. Yes. So yeah, I think we're going to expand a little bit. I mean, I'm sorry, Mary Plazo who I've played with for 25 years, guitar player. Absolutely, just one of the best guitar players I've ever played with. And Billy has gone back to Guitar for Modular, and then the Dutch is back in it from Dink. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
So is he back to doing drums, or is he still? Because I know, is he doing the
Yes,
modular thing?
he played drums, which is the first time we've played drums in a long time with each other. His wife said thank you. Love you, Tracy.
Yeah, I guess it gave him something to do and get him out of the house.
Right, right.
Now, some years, closing out, I always like to share
Yeah,
stories and
sure.
whatnot, but also advice for people wanting to make a career of music, no matter what it is. What advice can you give to some of the viewers who are that we gear this towards people who want to make it, who don't know or are trying? Any advice to help them get a footing and progress from wanting to be a professional to making a career out of
All I can say, you're going to suffer. But if you believe and if you persist and you craft your craft and you get into a circle of people that may do what you do, and you keep getting that circle bigger. I mean, my God, man, would I ever thought I would have been signed to Capitol Records? Never. But I used my contacts, and we selflessly self-promoted. I mean, shamelessly self-promoted in the day. I could never do that again. But we used every contact that we had, and we pushed it to the limit. I mean, it was a full-time freaking job, even though we had jobs.
Yeah.
And then on the other part, I have to say we had an incredible work ethic where we were rehearsed 5 days a week, 4 days a week, till we got off work at 8, start up about 9, go to about 1, hit last call, and you're done. 4 to 5 nights a week. We had 2 jobs, and it was worth it in the end. Plus it was fun. It was fun. I mean, I have to say about Dink. Okay, first we were friends, and then you became a gang, and then you were a band. And when we fired Rob Lightbody, we broke the magic. We always said if we got dropped, we'd do it to the end. Well, okay. We couldn't get the second record released with Rob in the band. So do you fire the dude for the betterment of the 4? If I had to do it again, I wouldn't have fired him, or we wouldn't have fired him. You make a lot of mistakes, man. I mean, it's not a perfect science. And there's a lot of stuff I regret, but there's also, it was the greatest experience I've ever had in my entire life. So, I mean, with fun comes, detriment sometimes.
I think that's it is a job. It is. It's like a 9 to 5. I actually, it blows most people
Yes.
away. I wanted to be a lawyer or an architect. I never thought I'd be doing music for a living. And as odd as it sounds, breaking my back in a car accident actually gave me that ability. But it is just as much a full-time job. I mean, I used to play guitar for fun, and I was a general manager of restaurants. I worked just as hard working at a studio and doing mixing and mastering and working on my own music and doing all kinds of stuff at the studio. I worked just as hard as I was when I was GM in restaurants.
Yeah. I mean, we all played in bands in Kent, Ohio before we got together. And it was like, 20 people would come and stuff like that. No big deal. But for some reason, Dink, from the first show to the end, there was never, it was off the hook. Our thing, there's a place called Blossom Music Center, about 18,000 in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. It's a major touring spot. That's where we ended. Yeah, my thing is like, don't break up in your basement, man. If you're going to go out with a pack. Break up in front of 18,000 people, because Infamous, famous is great, but Infamous is just as good. And there's an infamy about the Dink breakup, like swinging and bashing and stuff like that. I mean, go out with a fucking bang, man, because you still will make history.
And see, that's the thing. I didn't even know. The story I've always heard is basically because you guys weren't the cool new sound and you weren't commercially viable, which I'll stop right there. Commercially viable as a musician is not a bad thing. When you're commercially viable, that means they're just going to pump you out and you're going to do what they say, and that's it, and that's all. Motown was notorious for that, as long as other labels, they were. You just saying you were given what to do because they knew it'd sell. So not being commercially viable when you're a creative person is actually a good thing.
You see, our thing with Capitol, I mean, all right, so we're 1.2 million in this record. They sent us to Woodstock, New Jersey, and then they sent us to London. So we were at Rack and Abbey Road with Stephen Hague, who had done New Order and a bunch of other stuff. And the industry's changing. They had put that much money into it, and they weren't going to put any more, man. And so boom, you're on the street. As I like to say, August 29th, the day the running stopped.
And the one thing I find cool is with the infamous of finding out what really went on, and that was you guys went out kicking and fighting the whole way at that last one. That was a huge breakup. But I know there's a lot of musicians who would be like something like that. I'm done, and they just shelve it and maybe wait until they were, if ever, pick up an instrument again. They just
a friend of mine who I value his opinion and who made the documentary about us. He goes, "You guys are like the fucking space shuttle. You zoomed up and then just fucking imploded on the way down." I said, "Well, yeah."
But you had a great time, and it was a great life experience.
Oh hell yeah! No,
And I mean,
greatest thing ever. The great one. I mean, I've had many great musical experiences, but yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, Capitol Records. Are you fucking kidding me? Home of the Beatles. I mean, yeah. I mean, I could say. I mean, I'm going up in Capitol Records with me and Jared and Rob, and we're in the elevator, and who walks in was the Beastie Boys, my label mates, and they knew who we were. So I got a guy, and I'm like, fuck yeah, man. I'm like,
well, one I found you and half a Radiohead, you and I think you said it was Rob and half a Radiohead almost got arrested.
No, that was me and the Dutch and Ed and Carlin from Radiohead. So we're at fucking New York on Avenue of the Americas at the office. And we're like 48th floor or something like that. And we're talking to Ed and Colin from Radiohead, and the Dutch automatically brings up, "Let's smoke some weed." So they were into it completely. So we went into a office, and Ed does his Dutch touch thing, with the shag and shit. And of course, the fire alarm goes off. And they came, and they had to hire us because or hide us because it said the police and fire department were coming.
So yeah, that one you told me that, and I was like, oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, with those skyscrapers, a fire alarm goes off. It's all
hands on. It's automatic. Yeah, it's automatic.
Well,
I mean, the greatest one. I mean, okay. Do you know what the Capitol Tower looks like? It's 1750 North Vine.
No.
Hollywood. Okay. So the original Capitol building looks like a stack of rapids.
Okay, yeah, okay, I've seen. I didn't know that was the actual Capitol building. I know exactly. I know what you're talking about. That was always that was you made it if you were there.
We demanded our A&R guy, Lord Perry Russell, to take us to the roof so we could smoke weed. So we went to the roof of the Capitol building and smoked weed. I can say that.
Yeah, your priorities as a touring band when you're younger might be a little skewed.
Exactly. There were some things that we wanted to accomplish, and that was one of them. On the House of Beatles, we wanted to smoke weed on the top.
You know what? You had goals. You know you got to go for the goal.
I mean, before I leave, here's one more story. All right, so we're playing Whiskey a Go Go in LA, and it's a big Capitol deal, and it's packed. It's sold out. So we play, and this dude from Capitol comes up because there's a couple of people that want to meet you. And I'm like, okay. One is Gene Simmons, and the other is, what's her name? Who's the chick in Jamie Lee Curtis? So I voted Jamie Lee Curtis right off the bat, Well, all those other fucking assholes in Dink were Kiss Army shit. So I didn't meet Jamie Lee Curtis. I do have a beautiful picture of all of us with of him.
Wow.
Gene Simmons, yes.
Yeah, you've just got some cool stories, and just hear it. I enjoy just hearing you talk and share the stories and stuff you've done.
I will never hit the bottom because my God, stupidity should hurt, and we were stupid. It was fun as fuck, I haven't even got into Mark Hughes yet.
And we're going to have Sean back a couple other times. But
Mark Hughes was our film guy. So we carried Hughes and Andrew. Hughes would carry like 2 16mm projectors because we played in the dark with his shit going on top of us.
Yeah.
He has his master's in film. Out of his mind, Baby Huey, man, dude, that's all. That guy's out of his mind. I love you.
And I can only imagine, because back then that gear, now that type of gear is dropped down, it's all digital, but I can't imagine that stuff, hauling that stuff around, man.
So Mark Hughes was quite ingenious. So besides his 2 16mm projectors, he carried a couple of slide projectors. And then I bought this thing, which was like this slide thing. It was some kind of disco thing. And you put these things in it. Okay. Those like 60s, mid 60s, the San Francisco thing with that oil going like this?
Yep.
All right. He made these freaking things to put in this camera, and it was like oil thing. So you'd have this shit just coming down. I'd be like, I'm fucking higher and shit. And I'm like, whoa. Oh my God. It was the guy, Mark Hughes, is a genius. I must say.
Well,
yeah, we're very, very lucky to have him in our thing.
Oh man,
and him and Andrew as much as part of the band as we were.
Yeah, I know you told him part of it, and that he was a big part of making your shows pop out.
Oh yeah.
So, well, I'm gonna let you go.
Yes, bro.
We'll chat again, and of course, we're gonna have Sean back a couple times. Once your eyes are doing better, we can do the tour, but you still have plenty of experience and stories and knowledge.
Over the studio, we can do it off the phone.
Yes, we can do it. We can do it off the phone, but I don't know if you'll be up to it. I know you've had the eye thing going on, and they're trying to get that straightened out. So, but yeah, that we can do it for phone.
Blind man bluff right now.
Well, like I said, we're keeping you over at my house and at the studio and everything. We're sending positive vibes and everything for your way. It's so they can get it taken care of fast, and everything will be going good. But thank you again so much. I appreciate the time. I will hit you up later, and we'll share some more photos of gear and toying around with the stuff, since me and you have several of the same pieces. Again, thank you so much, Sean. I greatly appreciate it.
It was fantastic.
Any of you guys watching this on YouTube, this is aired on our Twitch live, and then it's posted on YouTube. Swing over to twitch.tv/junkiebase to catch us live. And we hope to see you guys there. Come hang out. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening. Peace.
Thanks, brother.
Not a problem, boss.
All right, man. Let me get Cheryl in here.
All right.